Thank you so much, Cafe Mutual. Good evening, everyone, from a beautiful and rainy Mumbai city. The reason I need to say that is because this is a virtual conference, and obviously, there are people logging in from multiple cities across the country, and maybe some investors who are not even in India, but maybe logging in from outside the country. So, welcome, everyone. But it's a great day in Mumbai, nice weather. So, it's a great start. Uh, as I start my small presentation that I have, all of you know that every time a mutual fund advertisement gets over, there is a small message which we give. So I'm going to give that message right at the beginning that what you're going to hear from me or see in my presentation is not going to be anything new, but possibly much of what you have heard multiple times in the past. So please forgive me if you think that I'm making a lot of repetition, but I think it's very critical to go back to the basics many a times. And why the basics are important is because if we build our foundations very well, then obviously the building that comes up on strong foundation lasts for many, many years. And I believe that we already have this kind of magic in the investment world where we have most of the messages already there. But in the din of the day-to-day work and also of the chaotic market, topsy-turvy market, sentiments going haywire, we tend to forget those very, very important messages. So with that, I'd just like to start my presentation. And like I said, many messages which you heard multiple times before, but I'm just going to kind of once again reiterate some of these very critical messages. And who better to start with than the one person who's ensured that he has the patience which possibly no one ever has, and that's Warren Buffett. He says, do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving. I think that is a very critical mantra, and telling it to the younger generation especially seems a little strange. But if you really want to be wealthy, you want to create a good financial plan, I think this is very important, and we need to keep remembering this message from the great Warren Buffett. So what do we need to do? I think first and foremost is planning. It's very, very important to understand as to why do you want to invest. If it's a get rich quick kind of situation, you want to make money over the next 3 to 6 months, then surely I think you're in the wrong product category called mutual funds, because this is not the place to be, because risk and reward go hand in hand. And one needs to understand the financial situation, the risk profiles, and the goals need to be understood before we really get down into the nitty-gritties of knowing what exactly is the amount of money, the quantum, and where do you want to put it, and what are the risks associated with it. A lot of people give you examples about a doctor and a chemist relationship. I don't want to give you that, but suppose you, and nowadays, a lot of us in the spare time that we've had sitting at home, what we've tried to do is some of us have tried our hand at painting, some of us have tried a hand at cooking, and you can actually switch on a good YouTube video where you get how to make a good dish. But really speaking, unless and until you don't try it multiple times over and over again, you don't really become the top chef at all times. Or you can't just build a house just because you can read it up on Google or see it how it is to be done. You need a person who's an expert in that field, and a distributor and an advisor is the right person to go to, because there are so many differentiated facets about investments that the person who's there full-time in this business, or is at least paying attention to the business or a large proportion of his time, ensures that that person is able to give a good advice to you, so that your strategy of what you want it for and how you're going to execute it comes together. So clearly consult somebody who knows the business and understands the markets and understands the risks that various products are there. Then there are a plethora of products. And obviously, as an individual, many a times we can get confused with the number of types of products. Within each product category, there are hundreds of products. So in which product should you invest? How can these products help us beat inflation and on a consistent basis? It's not that, 1 year you get something which is very magical. So that's something very, very important, selecting the right product. So if your time horizon is only 4 months or 5 months, then the type of product you need to get into is very, very different from somebody who's planning for their retirement. Somebody who just doesn't want to take any risk vis-a-vis somebody who's willing to take a lot of risk. I think there's a whole lot of challenges we face. The number of products which are there are numerous. So selecting the right product becomes extremely important and extremely critical. One of the important things is getting adequately insured. And you must be a little surprised as to why is a mutual fund CEO talking about insurance. So I'm not just talking about the right type of insurance, I'm also talking about medical insurance. And one thing COVID-19 has done is, start looking at the costs that you incur for medical purposes. It's kind of just instigated us to relook at the whole thing. We knew that if person falls sick and you go to a hospital, the bills can go really, really crazy. But today you have family floater plans, which means that you can cover your family for as high as 25, 40 lakhs or so. And these come relatively cheap. Or you can have a large term insurance, and a term insurance is meant for two things. One, minimum, it should cover all the liabilities that you have, which means any kind of loan, even if it is a credit card outstanding, is considered a loan, or a house loan or any other loan. And also leave enough money behind so that your family can live a similar lifestyle that they are used to. So clearly getting adequately insured is a very important part of financial planning. Mutual funds is one of the products which are very important within the financial planning space. Due diligence, if we go to select a house, we ask so many questions. Is the water available 24 hours? How often does the electricity go? Is there a plan to have a 50 feet or 60 feet road in the near future nearby? Are there any supermarkets nearby? And there are multiple questions we ask. But when it comes to investing, my uncle told me, get into this. This is a good product. We just go ahead and do it. Or my friend told me. So it's important, even if you have a good advisor, a good distributor managing or helping you make these decisions, it's important to ask the question why, when, where, how do I do it? What's the exit option? What are the risks in this profile, this particular product? And although mutual funds are extremely well regulated by SEBI, in fact, the kind of regulations that the mutual fund industry has, no other industry in India itself has. Clearly, despite the regulation, as a good investor, we should be asking a question and not just take somebody's word on it. This, I think, is the most difficult thing to do. Once having decided which products to invest in, actually committing to that discipline. It's like I decide that I'll get up at 6 o'clock every day and start exercising for 1 hour. And then, after 4 days, my legs start paining, hands start paining, and I say, no, today I will sleep. It's okay. I think that's something which we cannot do. If we have decided that we will do a portfolio review once every 6 months, we will do it. If we decide that our risk ratio is 70-30, wherein 70% I can take higher risk and 30% lower risk, when the markets go significantly higher, we need to do certain amount of asset rebalancing. So committing to discipline, SIPs, not stopping at SIP if it is to meet a particular goal, investing like clockwork, and obviously try and avoid as much of ad hoc spending which is there. The next is also a very important point, according to me, which every investor should look at. And that is start looking at things from a post-tax return perspective. So just because something is giving you a 7% return and something else is giving you a 9% return, a 9% return need not be better. A 7% could be tax-free, a 9% could be fully taxable. And if you are in the highest tax bracket, obviously it's going to give lesser money as compared to a 7% tax-free instrument. So looking at it, using all the options that the government has given you in terms of tax saving. Obviously, if you are in the new regime where you don't want to use of any of the benefits, that's different. but many people continue to use the various tax saving instruments and use the tax benefits given by the government of India. So that's something that you need to look at, and look at a post-tax return. Financial hygiene, I think this is extremely critical. And I'd like to give you my own example. Despite spending 25 years in this industry, every 4 or 5 years, when I try and make a financial hygiene in terms of a list of assets, in terms of the mobile numbers, in terms of the email IDs that we actually write down against each of them, I realized that some of the investments were done in a hurry, because of which I use some other email ID or another phone number, and now I've surrendered that phone number. Many of us change phone numbers over a period of time, and we don't update it. So ensuring that all our investments have nominees. If you're staying in a society, even the flat, there is a nomination facility available. Have we made a will, and is our will up to date? Our bank accounts up to date? I think this is something very important. Many parts of India are still under lockdown. Many of us are working from home. So we do have some additional time which we are saving because of our travel. And I think it's very, very critical to have this comprehensive list made out, so that we are able to ensure that all our financial assets, which includes bank account, PPF, PF, small savings, your insurance detail, mutual fund details, shares, stocks, bonds, everything is there in one common list. And all the nominees and email IDs are similar, so that when you need to communicate, or when you receive communication, everything is at one place. And the pandemic has taught us one very, very important thing. Earlier, we used to say that maybe 3 months to 6 months of emergency fund should always be there in your bank account. But I think of late, thanks to the pandemic, where we've been literally, all of us have been caught off guard, I think we now talk about having 9 to 12 months of money being in an emergency fund, which means you can put it in assets such as liquid or overnight funds, or just keep it in a savings bank account, whichever is suitable to you. But one thing is, we don't chase returns just because returns look good in the past. We all know that when even certain banks, people have gone and invested in their fixed deposits at a higher rate, it's not necessarily the best quality bank, and we've had certain issues with some banks also. So across the sector, across all kinds of savings instruments that we have, we need to be far more disciplined and commit to a particular plan, so that it makes our life better, and we are able to, at least from a financial part of it, lead a life which is a little less stress-free. With that, I'd like to thank all of you all. I hope these basic pointers have been very useful. I believe that it's important to keep reminding ourselves of the basics, because basics is what really help us build a long-term vision and a long-term future. And like I said, basics are the real foundation, and you always need a strong foundation for building a beautiful building or building a beautiful house, because that is a place that you're going to spend multiple years till the time you're there on this earth. So thank you very much. And I'm sure that the other sessions are going to be a lot exciting. I'd like to thank Prem. Prem always comes up with these wonderful ideas. You were the first to come out with the TED Talk kind of format. The whole objective is so many speakers. Even if you pick up 2-3 points in one full day, I think each one of us has really earned the money's worth of time spent in Cafe Mutual. So thank you once again, everyone.
Okay, Kailash, thank you for those wonderful insights. Kailash, I just wanted to pick up a few points which you made in your presentation, which I thought, if one were to choose a financial advisor, what should be the criteria?
So I think I look at two things. Prem, let me give my example. By the way, I would like to say something here, that despite being in this industry for such a long time, and I think just by sheer experience, you tend to understand a little bit more I still use a financial advisor for my needs because it's impossible for me to track my investments and understand each and every product where the investment is going on. I really look at two things. One, I look at a financial advisor when he sits down, he's not looking at me writing a check and giving it to him on that day. He's really understanding my needs, talking to me, asking me a lot of questions, and more importantly, telling me the risks associated with each products and what are the kind of charges that are there which I will be incurring when I invest in a particular product. So giving you an example, recent example of a friend of mine, where obviously they were being sold one particular type of insurance and the advisor told them it has only a 3% charge fee, 3% fee. And I asked him, please ask me how much money is going to get invested out of the 100 rupees I gave. And actually only 87 rupees was getting invested. So although the fee was 3%, all the other miscellaneous charges put together were 13 rupees, which is not what. So I think explaining the risk of the product and explaining how much money is going to get invested tells you that the advisor is thinking from your perspective and obviously understanding your needs much better rather than coming and say, this is a great product to invest in. So this is what I would look out from an advisor.
Okay. Now, another thing, how many mutual fund schemes or products should a portfolio have for a retail investor?
Well, it differs from people to people, but I don't think it should be. It can be somewhere between 6 and 10. Ideally, 6 to 8 is what I would say. You shouldn't have more than 10 for sure, because then you are just unnecessarily diversifying your product portfolio too much. Ideally, if you have 6 schemes which have different qualities within them, that's good enough according to me. And you can keep adding into the same scheme when you have more money. However, if that particular scheme, when you do your portfolio review, something has seriously gone wrong because there's been a change of philosophy in the fund house, or there have been serious amounts of issues which have cropped up, which could be corporate related or whatever, I think that's the time you may want to diversify and move out of that fund and go into a new fund completely. But unnecessarily changing funds is not a great thing to do.
Okay. Kailash, what is your view on holding passive funds, passively managed funds in your portfolio? Should we have, let's say, you said 6 to 8 products. Let's assume that 6 of them are equity and 2 are debt. If
Okay.
I'm holding 6 equity products, uh, general rule of thumb, should I have 1 or 2 of them as passive or all of them passive? What would you?
I feel that in a diversification, you should look at 10 to 15% of your portfolio into passive. Luckily for us in India, active is going to play out for at least 3 to 5 years more, which easily they should be able to beat the passive fund. But there will be times like now, where the markets have been extremely irrational. Only a few stocks have given multiple returns. So if you look at an index of 100 stocks, only 15 stocks would have given the return, 85 stocks would not have given you the return. A diversified portfolio may not have worked for you. So as a part of portfolio diversification, I truly believe that you should have 10 to 15% in passive funds at the time being. And as India progresses, becomes far more competitive, maybe you may want to increase this to 25-30% or more.
Great. Great, Kailash. Wonderful to have you. And I know that you have given us a very holistic view. So I know you've been in mutual funds. I know you've been in life insurance. You've been in wealth management, banking. Tremendous. You brought out all your insights. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much.